XVONE, up for educational critical review and reaction, is Jordan Maxwell, in a piece titled Stranger.
They think it's the Star of David because they don't know any more about it than the Gentiles do. And Gentiles don't know more about it than the Catholics do, and the Catholics don't know from nothing. And so when you start looking at the original Star of David, goes back to the planet Saturn, and the Jews today still worship the planet Saturn. That's their main god today,
right?
And their main god today is referred to as the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Why? Because Saturn is the Lord of the Rings, and people were told, the old Jews were told to get married before their god, so they would wear a wedding ring. The women were told to listen to their god Saturn, so they wear an ear ring. And so we now know that this whole subject of Hollywood movie, the Lord of the Rings, is actually the worship of the Jewish god Saturn. And this is why Saturn in the old Phoenician Canaanite language, the word for the planet, we call it Saturn. But the way it was spelled in the old Canaanite language was Sabbath, S-H-A-B-B-A-T-H. Shabbat, S-H-A-B-B-A-T-H. Shabbat was the planet Saturn. And so today, if you're going to worship the planet Saturn, Lord of the Rings, you do it on a day called the Sabbath. So therefore, the Sabbath is nothing more than the worship of Shabbat. And Shabbat is the Babylonian word for, an Assyrian word for, the planet Saturn, the six-pointed star, the one who puts the hex on you. Wake up. Right. The world is not what you think it is.
No, sir.
There's a whole world of knowledge you've never been invited to know about.
Absolutely. And you know, the other thing that they asked, though, was about the five-pointed star.
Yeah.
Which, to me,
I think it's interesting that the five-pointed star has been called what do they call it? The flaming star.
Right.
There was, and Elvis Presley even made a movie about it many years ago. Can't remember the name of the movie. Something about the flaming star. And it was a five-pointed star, which is all part of an esoteric understanding during the Middle Ages, when you have the man with the two legs, the two arms. I think it was Da Vinci that drew that. And it's been used continually in history.
It's very simple. I mean, if you take a look at the Vitruvian Man, or if you just take a look at your own body and you understand that you extend your two arms. I mean, listen, you have a middle section, so does the five-pointed star. The five-pointed star has five appendages, so do you.
That's right.
So to my understanding about the five-pointed star, this is a man. This is what this is. Now, you could say this represents the elements. You could say, and there's a lot of people that have utilized this in various ways.
Of course.
But it's interesting that it is part of the symbolic culture of America.
Yeah.
Like I said, the stars on the flag. You want to talk about Hollywood? Well, we have the Walk of Stars, right, where we put people's names on the stars.
That's right.
Right? And why is it that it would be a five-pointed star? There's no five-pointed star in the sky. So, you know, it's not like it's a representation directly of something that can be seen in the sky, exactly. No. But it does appear to me, and I do understand it, as the six compartments within the five-pointed star exactly represent what a man's formation is.
That's right. That's why Manly P. Hall wrote a whole book called Man is the Measure of the Universe. Period. The man, his body, a normal man's body, is represented by the whole universe. The whole understanding, the deep understanding of the great wizards and the great minds of the ancient world understood that the human body represents that which is above is so below.
See,
as above, so below. And so,
absolutely. And look, I understand all that, but, you know, thinking of Manly P. Hall, because we're almost out of time, but thinking of Manly P. Hall, again, this idea that there was a future for this country that, you know, was a special destiny.
Yeah.
This was one of Manly P. Hall's cornerstones when it
That's
came to what it is
exactly
he
right.
publicly wrote about. And I believe this links to the idea of either the resurrection or the fruition of the fable of Atlantis in a way.
That's exactly correct. And that's why he talked about the fact that the pyramid on the dollar bill is not the capstone, which is the top triangle on the dollar bill, is called the capstone, or the chief cornerstone. And Christians say Jesus is the cornerstone of the church. No, Jesus is not the cornerstone of the church. There are a lot of churches called the Cornerstone Church, but they got it wrong, because the Christians have no idea what that word cornerstone means. It's a corner of a building. It's a cornerstone. And it's the first block, it's the first brick, first stone you lay, and then depending on how that one is laid out, once you draw straight lines from it, that's the cornerstone of a church. Well, Jesus is not the cornerstone of the church. The Bible doesn't say that. It says twice in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. Jesus in the New Testament is referred to as the chief, C-H-I-E-F, chief cornerstone that the builders rejected. But in the Old Testament, and I think it's in the book of Isaiah, one place, the Messiah is referred to as the chief cornerstone. Not cornerstone, chief, C-H-I-E-F. Don't forget it. Chief cornerstone. And the chief cornerstone in the Hebrew theology, in the Hebrew Bible, if you take that word for chief cornerstone in Hebrew and go to a Bible dictionary and look it up, it will tell you the chief cornerstone was a symbol for Messiah, the Messiah of the Jews. And the symbol for the Messiah was a chief cornerstone, and it will tell you that's a triangle that sits on top of a pyramid. But it's not connected to the pyramid because it's above the pyramid. The pyramid represents the body of mankind. And that's why it's called a pyramid. Pyramid. Pyramid comes from two words. Pyra. P-Y-R-A. Pyra. Pyra is a fire, like pyromaniac, pyrotech. Pyra, P-Y-R-A, is a fire. And mid, M-I-D, is the middle. And so a pyramid means fire in the middle. Why? Because the fire of sexual generation is in the middle of the human body. It's a pyramid, fire in the middle. Get it? And once you understand that the fire in the middle is the creation of human life for the whole universe, between male and female, that causes humans to be here, is the fire in the middle, or the pyramid. Right. And that the chief cornerstone is the ultimate power that decides the ultimate destiny of the pyramid. But it doesn't touch the pyramid because it's above it. And so that's why it's called the chief cornerstone, and Jesus is connected to the chief cornerstone because he is the pyramid. And it's a very ancient story, a very fascinating when you get into it and see how the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, is connected directly to Stonehenge. Stonehenge is the magic circle of stones. And if you draw a line straight from the back of the pyramid straight through the front door and draw a straight line, a laser line across the world, it will cross the Great Pyramid in Giza. And so that's why in the book of Isaiah it says in Isaiah 19:19 that there was a pyramid in the middle of Egypt, and God put it there. And it said, "This is wonderful. It's God's work." I can't remember exactly the scripture, but it's Isaiah 19:19 talks about the pyramid. So just keep in mind when you go to public buildings, in restaurants and hotels and whatever, big public buildings, you will always see the men's room is always a triangle. And the women's room is always a circle. The circle represents the Stonehenge, the female. And the triangle on the men's restroom and public buildings represents the fire in the middle, men. And the fire in the middle is in the middle of the human body. So you need to understand the dark secrets that's been hidden from you by the world's religions. They know all about the connection between the sexual generation for humans, the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, and all of the dark sexual stuff that's going on today around the world. You really need to wake up and find out what the real truth is before you die. It would be interesting for you to find out what you don't know about the world you live in.
In the old Phoenician Canaanite language, you spell the name Saturn, S-H-A-B-B-A-T-H, Shabbat. And so if you're going to worship the planet Saturn, the Shabbat, you do it on something called the Sabbath. So when you hear in the Ten Commandments, remember to keep holy the Sabbath. Sabbath is the Phoenician name for the planet Saturn. Saturn, as a god, was always called the god of the black robe. Black is a very important color in both Judaism and the Catholic Church and Christianity, because black represents Saturn. Saturn is the god who is a judge of all mankind. That's why judges in courtrooms wear a black robe. Shabbat also has another interpretation. Saturn is the seventh planet. He's also sometimes represented as the Grim Reaper, Father Time. Very interesting, all the little details about Saturn and its numbers applying to it and the colors and all of that. We get our idea about chronology from Saturn, so we have something called a calendar, chronia, the calendar. Saturn was Chronos in Greek. Another reason why Saturn was important is because Saturn was understood to be the inhibitor, one who holds you back in life. That's why when you are celebrating your God on the Sabbath, you do no work. Because the ancients said if Saturn is the inhibitor who holds us back, then we won't do anything. He doesn't have to hold us back. We'll just not do anything on Sabbath. The reason why that Saturn became known as the inhibitor, and because it circled, ancient man didn't know there were any other planets out past Saturn, so they assumed that he's the bottom line. He's the one that holds us together. Saturn is still important in Middle Eastern religions, Arabic religions. The Star of David is a six-pointed star. Well, six-pointed star is actually referred to by the reference works as a hex, a hexagram. Hex simply means six, which incidentally, in the Bible, 6 is the number of a man. How do you spell 6 in Latin? It's sex, S-E-X. So 6 is a six-pointed star. And today the Jews call it the Star of David. But the encyclopedias will show you that a six-pointed star is a hex, and it will tell you that it was originally the star of Saturn. So in the ancient world, some of the priests would draw a circle on the ground and draw a triangle, and then they would put another triangle obverse going the other way, which makes it a six-pointed star, and then they would be able to step inside of the circle and into the star and cast a spell on you. And so the idea was they put the hex on you.